This all started on my 52nd birthday. But to really understand, I need to take you back a bit. I've always been the type of person who thrives on routine. It's like my safety net in a world that can feel so unpredictable. For 28 years, my life with my husband Marcus revolved around those little daily rituals that made everything feel solid and real. We lived in this charming two-story colonial house in Willow Creek, a sleepy town in upstate New York. Picture it. White siding, a wraparound porch where I'd sip tea on summer evenings, and a garden full of roses that I babied like they were my own kids. It was the kind of place where neighbors knew your name and waved as they walked their dogs. Secrets in Willow Creek? They were supposed to stay buried under those perfect lawns. Marcus was my rock, or at least that's what I told myself. We met in college at one of those awkward mixers where the punch was too strong and the music was too loud. He had this easy smile, these bright blue eyes, and a way of telling stories that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He was studying architecture, dreaming of building skyscrapers that touch the clouds, and I was the bookish English major who fell hard for his ambition. We got married 2 years later, right after graduation, and built a life together. He became a successful architect, designing those sleek office buildings in Albany and beyond. His job meant a lot of travel, conferences in Chicago, site visits in Boston, but he'd always come home with a bouquet of lilies, my absolute favorite, and a kiss that whispered, "I'm sorry for being away." Me? I opened a little boutique bookstore in town called Pages and Petals. It was my haven, stocked with romance novels that promised happy endings, self-help books for those rainy, soul-searching days, and the occasional thriller to keep things spicy. Customers would come in, spilling their hearts, and I'd hand them just the right book to fix whatever was broken. "Elora, you have a gift," they'd say. If only they knew how much I relied on those stories to patch up the tiny cracks in my own life. We had 2 amazing kids, Liam, who's 26 now and killing it as a software engineer in Seattle, and Sophia, 24, chasing her master's in environmental science out in Boulder. Family life was everything to me. Those chaotic dinners around our old oak table, Marcus cracking his corny jokes while I served up my famous apple pie. But as the kids grew up and moved out, it was just Marcus and me, falling back into our comfortable rhythm. Or so I thought. As my 52nd birthday rolled around, I felt this quiet buzz of excitement. Birthdays were a big deal in our house. Marcus always went all out. Fancy dinners, surprise getaways. This year, he'd been dropping hints like breadcrumbs. "It's going to be unforgettable, Laura," he'd say, wrapping his arms around me in bed, his breath warm against my neck. I'd trace the lines on his face, wondering how time had carved them so deeply, but left his spirit so youthful. What could it be? A trip to Europe? A vow renewal? My mind spun with possibilities. The morning of my birthday, I woke up to sunlight filtering through the curtains, autumn leaves dancing outside like confetti. I stretched, feeling that familiar twinge in my back from years of hauling books around the store. Marcus was already downstairs, and the smell of fresh coffee and pancakes pulled me out of bed like a magnet. I patted down in my robe, and there it was. The kitchen transformed into a birthday wonderland. Balloons floating up to the ceiling, a banner screaming, "Happy birthday, my love," across the cabinets, and a vase of lilies smack in the middle of the island. Marcus turned from the stove, apron covered in flour, and pulled me into a bear hug. "Happy birthday, darling. I've got the whole day planned." I laughed, planting a kiss on his cheek. "You spoil me rotten." "Spill it. What's the big surprise?" He winked, those blue eyes sparkling. "Patience, my love. Breakfast first, then we're off." We sat there eating in that easy silence we'd perfected over the years. The pancakes were fluffy, topped with berries from the local market. Perfection. Marcus seemed a tad off, glancing at his phone more than usual, but I brushed it aside. Work stress, I figured. Architects and their endless deadlines. After breakfast, he suggested a drive to our favorite spot by the lake, that secluded picnic area where we'd had our first date all those years ago. I slipped into my go-to sundress, a soft blue one that matched my eyes, and threw on a cardigan for the chill. As we drove, jazz tunes played on the radio, and Marcus held my hand, his thumb drawing lazy circles on my skin. It felt like old times, like we were young again. The lake was breathtaking that day, the water reflecting the explosion of fall colors. Marcus laid out a blanket and unpacked the basket. Champagne, artisanal cheese, grapes, and those decadent chocolate truffles I adore. We toasted, glasses clinking, the sun warming our faces. "This is everything," I sighed, leaning into him. But then his face changed, just a subtle shift, like a cloud passing over the sun. He set down his glass and took a deep breath. "Actually, there is more. I've been thinking a lot about us, about family." My heart did a little flip. "Grandkids? A family reunion? Tell me," I urged, squeezing his hand. He pulled out his phone. "It's better to show you. They're waiting." "They?" My mind raced. Before I could press, a car pulled up, a plain sedan I'd never seen. Out stepped a woman, maybe mid-40s, with sharp features and dark hair in a tight bun. Behind her, two teens, a lanky boy around 16 with Marcus's exact nose, and a girl about 14 with eyes that were his spitting image. I froze. The champagne turned to acid in my throat. "Marcus, who are these people?" He looked at me, his face a mix of guilt and something like relief. "This is Vanessa, and these are our kids, Ethan and Mia." "Ours?" The word hit me like a slap. Vanessa stepped forward, smiling tentatively. "Hi, Elora. I've heard so much about you." My world spun. I stared at Marcus, waiting for the joke, the explanation, but his eyes were dead serious. "I've had another family for 30 years. Vanessa and I met before you. It started as a mistake, but it grew. I couldn't leave either life, but now it's time to bring it all together on your birthday so we can start fresh as one family." 30 years. Before our wedding? The math hit me hard. All those trips weren't just work. The late nights, the vague excuses, they snapped into focus. Vanessa chimed in softly. "We've been in a town 2 hours away. Marcus supported us, visited when he could. The kids know about you. They're thrilled to meet your half-siblings." Ethan mumbled a hello, shuffling his feet, while Mia gawked at me with wide eyes. Shock, fury, heartbreak crashed over me like waves. But underneath, a weird calm settled. I'd read enough books to know life could shatter in seconds. But I wasn't shattering with it. I stood up slowly, brushing off my dress. They all watched me like I might explode. Instead, I smiled, a real warm smile that threw them off. "Well, this is quite the birthday gift. A whole new family. How thoughtful." Marcus blinked, exhaling in relief. "You're handling this so well. I knew you'd understand. We can make this work." I nodded, my brain already plotting. "Oh, I understand. And since it's my day, I have a gift for you, too." I reached into my purse for a small, beautifully wrapped box, something I'd picked out weeks ago as a token of our love. But now, it meant something quite different. He took it, grinning hesitantly. "What's inside?" "Open it later," I said sweetly, "when the moment's right. For now, let's enjoy this reunion." As we sat there in that awkward picnic, making small talk that felt like walking on eggshells, my smile stayed put. But inside, a fire was kindling. 30 years of deception. But I had 52 years of grit. And this was just the spark. Little did they know, that box was the start of something they'd never see coming. The picnic dragged on like a bad dream you can't wake up from. Vanessa. Oh, Vanessa. She sat there with this poised elegance, chatting about mundane things like the kids' school activities and how Marcus had helped Ethan with his science fair project last year. Ethan, the boy, kept stealing glances at me, like he was trying to figure out if I was the villain in his story or just some stranger. Mia, the girl, was more open. She asked about my bookstore, her eyes lighting up when I mentioned the young adult fantasy section. I love reading about strong heroines, she said innocently. It took everything in me not to laugh bitterly. Strong heroines? Honey, you're looking at one forging her armor in real time. Marcus played the gracious host, passing around the cheese and grapes, acting like this was a normal family outing. See, Alara? This could work. We could blend our lives, holidays together, maybe even a big house for everyone. His optimism grated on me. Blend? Like we were ingredients in some twisted recipe. I nodded along, keeping that smile plastered on, but my mind was elsewhere. I was replaying every suspicious moment from our marriage. The business trips that extended unexpectedly, the odd charges on credit card statements I'd dismiss as work expenses, the way he'd sometimes come home smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. 30 years. That meant this affair, or whatever it was, predated our vows. Had our entire marriage been a lie? As the sun started dipping, casting orange hues over the lake, I suggested we wrap up. It's getting chilly, and I have an early morning at the store tomorrow. They all agreed, relieved, I think, that I hadn't caused a scene. Vanessa even hugged me goodbye, awkwardly, like we were old acquaintances. I'm glad we finally met, she whispered. Marcus always said you were kind. Kind? If only she knew the storm brewing. Marcus and I drove home in silence at first. He kept glancing at me, waiting for the explosion. When it didn't come, he reached for my hand. Alara, talk to me. I know this is a lot, but I did it for us, for all of us. I pulled my hand away gently, still smiling faintly. A lot? Marcus, you've been living a double life. 2 families, 2 sets of kids. How did you even manage it? He sighed, gripping the steering wheel tighter. It wasn't planned. Vanessa and we were young, reckless. I met her right before you during a summer internship. It was supposed to end, but then she got pregnant with Ethan. I couldn't abandon them. But I loved you too. So I compartmentalized. Work trips became visits. I built walls to keep everything separate. Compartmentalized, I repeated, tasting the word like poison. And now you want to tear down those walls on my birthday. What about Liam and Sophia? Do they get a say in this blended family fantasy? We'll tell them together, he said quickly. They'll understand. Family is family. I didn't respond. Instead, I stared out the window at the blurring trees, my thoughts racing. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand he pull over and explain every detail. But another part, the smarter part, knew I needed time. Information was power, and I wasn't about to show my cards yet. When we got home, the house felt different. The balloons from that morning mocked me, bobbing like forgotten party guests. Marcus suggested we open a bottle of wine and talk more, but I shook my head. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Let's sleep on it. He looked relieved again, kissing my forehead. You're amazing, Alara. I don't deserve you. No, I said softly. You don't? He didn't catch the edge in my voice. Upstairs, I locked myself in the bathroom, finally letting the tears come. Hot, silent sobs that shook my body as I sat on the cool tile floor. Betrayal like this, it's not just pain, it's a rewriting of your entire history. Every happy memory now tainted. Our wedding day, he must have been thinking of Vanessa. The birth of our kids, was he sneaking off to see his other ones? I felt like a fool, a supporting character in my own life. But crying only lasts so long. After a while, I splashed water on my face and looked in the mirror. My eyes were red, but there was a fire there too. I'd built a business from nothing, raised 2 incredible kids, survived the ups and downs of life. This wouldn't break me. No, it would remake me. That night, while Marcus snored beside me, I slipped out of bed and into my home office, a cozy nook off the living room filled with bookshelves and my laptop. I needed answers. First, I grabbed the box I'd given him. He'd left it on the kitchen counter, unopened per my instructions. It was small, about the size of a jewelry box, wrapped in silver paper with a red bow. Inside was a vintage pocket watch I'd found at an antique shop, engraved with "Timeless Love" on the back. I'd meant it as a sweet gesture for our years together, but now it was ironic. Time had been his weapon, and this watch would be part of mine. I tucked it away for later. Then I fired up my computer. Years of reading thrillers had taught me a thing or two about digging for dirt. I started with public records, nothing too invasive, just searches on Vanessa's name. It didn't take long. She lived in Elmwood, a small town 2 hours south, as she'd said. Property records showed a modest house in Marcus's name. Wait, Marcus's name? Not jointly with her? That was interesting. A quick dive into social media revealed more. Vanessa's profiles were private, but Ethan's wasn't. He had photos from family vacations, places Marcus had claimed were work trips. There was even a picture of Marcus at his 18th birthday party last year, the same weekend he told me he was in Boston for a conference. My heart pounded as I pieced it together, but I needed more. I remembered Marcus's old briefcase in the attic, the one he never let me touch, saying it was full of boring blueprints. Quiet as a mouse, I crept up there, flashlight in hand. The attic was dusty, filled with boxes of Christmas decorations and old baby clothes. I found the briefcase tucked behind some crates, locked with a combination. What would he use? Our anniversary? Too obvious. I tried Ethan's birthday, got it from his social media. Click. It opened. Inside were stacks of documents. Bank statements showing transfers to an account in Vanessa's name, totaling thousands over the years. There were photos, too. Marcus with Vanessa and the kids at various ages. And letters. Handwritten ones from Vanessa dating back decades. One from 1995, just after our wedding. I know you're starting fresh with her, but remember us. Ethan asks about his daddy. My blood boiled. But then a newer one from 6 months ago. The kids are getting older. We can't keep this up. Tell her, or I will. So that's why now. Not some noble urge for unity, pressure from the other side. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands shaking. This was ammunition. As dawn broke, I slipped back into bed, Marcus none the wiser, but I wasn't done. That morning, after he left for work, or wherever he really went, I called in sick to the bookstore and drove to Elmwood. I had to see it for myself. The town was quaint, similar to Willow Creek, but smaller. Vanessa's house was a cute bungalow with a swing set in the yard. I parked across the street, watching like some amateur detective. Vanessa emerged around noon, heading to what looked like a yoga class. The kids were at school, I assumed. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I visited the local library, using their computers to dig deeper. Tax records, more financial trails. Turns out Marcus had set up a trust for Ethan and Mia, funded by consulting fees from his firm. Was it embezzlement? I wasn't sure, but it smelt fishy. And then the biggest find. A marriage certificate. Marcus and Vanessa had tied the knot 31 years ago, a year before he married me. Bigamy? My mind reeled. In New York, that's a crime. He wasn't just cheating. He was a criminal. Driving home, a plan started forming. That box? It wasn't just a watch anymore. I'd add something to it. A note, perhaps, were evidence. But I needed to play the long game, act normal, gather more, then strike when it hurt most. By evening, Marcus came home all smiles. "How was your day?" he asked. "Fine," I replied, handing him dinner. "Actually, I've been thinking. Let's have Vanessa and the kids over for dinner this weekend. Get to know each other better." His eyes lit up. "Really? That's great." "Oh, it would be great." For me. Little did he know I was just getting started, but as I lay in bed that night, a nagging thought crept in. What if there were more secrets? More families? I pushed it aside, but it limbered.
The weekend arrived faster than I expected. I'd spent the days leading up to it in a whirlwind of preparation, not just cooking, but strategizing. I cleaned the house top to bottom, as if scrubbing away the lies could make everything right. In the kitchen, I prepared a feast: roasted chicken with herbs from my garden, garlic mashed potatoes, a fresh salad, and my signature apple pie for dessert. It was ironic, really. Me, the betrayed wife, playing hostess to my husband's secret family. But appearances were key. I needed them comfortable, off guard, so I could watch for slips. Marcus was over the moon, buzzing around like this was the start of some grand new chapter. "This is going to be amazing, Alara. You're handling this like a champ." I smiled and nodded, but inside I was seething. Champ? More like a chess master moving pieces into position. I had hidden the evidence I'd found, the photos, documents, everything, in a locked drawer in my office. And that box? Still unopened on the mantel, waiting for its moment. Vanessa and the kids arrived promptly at 6 p.m., pulling up in that same sedan. Vanessa carried a bottle of wine and a bouquet of daisies. Polite, but it felt like a peace offering from enemy territory. Ethan loped in behind her, earbuds dangling, while Mia bounced with nervous energy, clutching a small gift bag. "Hi, Alara! We brought dessert, chocolate chip cookies. Mom baked them." I welcomed them with open arms, literally, hugging Vanessa like we were old friends. "Come in, make yourselves at home. Dinner's almost ready." Marcus beamed, clapping Ethan on the back and ruffling Mia's hair. The kids from his other life. It stung seeing how natural he was with them, like he'd had years of practice I never knew about. We settled in the living room first, sipping wine while the chicken finished roasting. Small talk flowed awkwardly at first. Vanessa complimented the house. "It's so cozy. Marcus always said you had great taste." I thanked her, biting back the urge to say, "He should know. He paid for half of it with money meant for our family." Instead, I steered the conversation to the kids. "Ethan, what are you into these days? Sports? School?" He shrugged, typical teen style. "Video games mostly. And coding. Dad's been helping me with a project." Dad. The word hit like a gut punch. My own kids called him that, oblivious to this shadow family. Mia was chattier. "I love art. I draw a lot. Can I see your bookstore sometime? It sounds cool." "Absolutely," I said warmly. "We have a whole section on illustration. You'd love it." As we talked, I noticed Vanessa fidgeting with her necklace, a simple gold chain with a heart pendant. It looked familiar. Wait, I'd seen Marcus buy something like that on a work trip years ago. Was it a gift for her? Dinner was served around the oak table, the same one where I'd hosted countless family meals with Liam and Sophia. Marcus sat at the head, Vanessa to his right, me to his left, like some bizarre royal court. The kids filled the sides, and for a moment, it almost felt normal. We passed plates, laughed at Mia's jokes about school, and even shared stories. Vanessa opened up a bit. "I work as a teacher, elementary school. It's rewarding but exhausting." "Sounds fulfilling," I replied. "How did you and Marcus manage with his travel?" It was a subtle probe, and she hesitated. "Oh, you know, we met at work. He's always been supportive." Marcus shot her a look, but she continued. "Even when things were tight financially." Financially? That piqued my interest. Tight? With his job, I'd think money wasn't an issue. Vanessa glanced at Marcus, who cleared his throat. "Well, architecture has its ups and downs, but we've always gotten by." I let it drop but noted it. Later, as we dug into the pie, I turned to Ethan. "So, your science project? What was it about?" He lit up. Renewable energy. Dad hooked me up with some contacts from his firm, even got me an internship last summer. Internship? Marcus's firm didn't offer teen internships that I knew of. "That's great. Which firm is that again, Marcus? The one in Albany?" He nodded, but his fork paused midair. "Yeah, just a favor from a colleague." The evening wore on, and after dessert, the kids excused themselves to the living room to play on their phones. That left the adults alone. Vanessa leaned in. "Alara, I want to say, I'm sorry for how this came out. It wasn't fair to you." I tilted my head, keeping my tone even. 30 years is a long time to keep a secret. When did you two actually meet?" "College," she said softly. "Before he met you. We got married young, eloped really, but then he got that job offer and things complicated." "Married," she said it casually, but it confirmed what I'd found. "Bigamy." Marcus's face paled slightly. "Vanessa, maybe we don't need to rehash—" "No," I interjected smoothly. "It's okay. We're family now, right? Secrets out in the open." The tension thickened. Vanessa excused herself to the bathroom, and Marcus whispered to me, "See, this is progress." Progress? I almost laughed. But then my phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "Mom, Liam and I are planning a surprise visit next weekend. Don't tell Dad." My heart swelled. My real kids coming home. Perfect timing. As the night wound down, Vanessa and the kids prepared to leave. At the door, Mia handed me the gift bag she'd brought. "This is for you. Happy belated birthday." Inside was a handmade card, drawn by her, with a note, "Thanks for being nice. Hope we can be friends." It was sweet, innocent. I hugged her, feeling a pang. The kids weren't to blame. They were pawns in this mess. After they left, Marcus collapsed on the couch. "That went better than I hoped. You're incredible." I sat beside him and handed him the box from the mantel. "Speaking of incredible, why don't you open your gift now?" He unwrapped it eagerly, revealing the pocket watch. "Alara, this is beautiful. Timeless love. Perfect." Isn't it? Time reveals everything, doesn't it? He didn't catch the double meaning. That night, as he slept, I couldn't. The dinner had given me more than intel. It sparked doubt. Vanessa's words about finances nagged at me. I snuck back to my office and dug deeper online. Using the clues from Ethan, I hacked into Marcus's work email. I'd guessed his password years ago, our anniversary, predictable. There it was, emails about off-the-books consulting payments funneled to a shell company. And the internship? It was at a firm Marcus partially owned under a different name. Tax evasion? Embezzlement? But the real bombshell came when I cross-referenced Vanessa's name in more databases. She wasn't just a teacher. She had a record. A dismissed charge for fraud 5 years ago. Something about forged documents. And there was a third name linked. Another woman in a different town. Wait, what? Photos from social media showed Marcus at an event with her, arm around his waist, dated 2 years ago. My stomach dropped. Was there a third family? I felt sick, but it fueled me. I printed everything, adding it to my growing file. The next morning, I confronted Marcus subtly over breakfast. "That was nice last night, but tell me, is there anything else I should know?" He froze. "What do you mean?" "Just, making sure all secrets are out." He laughed it off, but I saw the fear in his eyes. Little did he know, my kid's surprise visit was about to collide with this chaos. And when Sophia texted me a photo en route, a family heirloom she'd found, I realized it tied into Marcus's lies in ways I never imagined.
The week after that bizarre dinner flew by in a blur of fake normalcy and covert operations. Marcus acted like everything was peachy, whistling while he made coffee, planning family outings with Vanessa's crew. I played along, all smiles and "sure, honey," but behind the scenes, I was a woman on a mission. I'd compiled a thick dossier now, printouts, photos, even recordings from a hidden app on my phone during the dinner. The bigamy proof was ironclad. Marcus's first marriage to Vanessa never dissolved. Our wedding was legally void. And that third woman, I'd tracked her down. Her name was Lila, a graphic designer in Syracuse, about an hour away. Social media sleuthing showed Marcus with her at networking events, but the timestamps matched weekends he'd claimed to be visiting old college buddies. No kids that I could find, but regular wire transfers to her account screamed affair, or worse, another hidden life. It made me sick, questioning every memory. Had he ever been faithful? Was I just the main wife, the stable one who provided the perfect cover? The anger fueled me, but I kept it bottled, waiting for the right moment. That pocket watch box, I'd modified it. Inside, alongside the watch, I slipped a tiny USB drive with copies of the key evidence and a note, "Time's up. The truth ticks louder than lies." I resealed it, placing it back on the mantel like a ticking bomb. Then came the weekend. Sophia's text arrived Friday night. "Almost there, hiding the car down the street, surprised Dad in the morning." I grinned despite everything. My kids were my anchors, and their timing couldn't have been better. Or worse, depending on how you looked at it. Saturday morning dawned bright, and Marcus was up early, heading to the garage for errands. I suspected he was sneaking off to see Vanessa or Lila, but I let him go. An hour later, the doorbell rang. There were Liam and Sophia, arms full of bags, grinning like kids on Christmas. "Surprise!" they yelled, pulling me into a group hug. Tears pricked my eyes, happy ones for once. "You have no idea how much I needed this." We piled into the kitchen where I brewed coffee and caught up. Liam talked about his latest tech project, Sophia about her thesis on climate change. It felt normal, healing, but I knew I had to tell them. Not everything, not yet, but enough. "Guys, there's something going on with your dad. He's been keeping secrets. Big ones." Their faces fell. Sophia reached for my hand. "What kind of secrets, Mom?" Before I could elaborate, the front door opened. Marcus walked in, freezing at the sight of us. "Liam, Sophia, what are you doing here? Surprise visit," Liam said, standing to hug him. But Marcus's smile was forced, his eyes darting to me like I'd orchestrated an ambush. We moved to the living room, the air thick with unspoken tension. The kids sensed it immediately. "Dad, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus sat down heavily, rubbing his temples. "It's complicated. Your mom and I have some news." "Uh-huh. Why don't you tell them, Marcus? About your other family?" The room went silent. Liam's jaw dropped. "Other what?" Marcus stammered, but I jumped in, calm as ice. "On my birthday, your father introduced me to Vanessa and their 2 kids, Ethan and Mia. He's been married to her for 31 years, before me, and supporting them all this time." Sophia's eyes widened in horror. "Married? Like bigamy? Dad, is this true?" He nodded, tears welling. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I love you all. I was going to tell you." Liam stood up, pacing. "This is insane. How could you do this to Mom? To us?" The confrontation escalated. Sophia pulled out her phone, showing a photo she'd texted me earlier, the family heirloom. It was an old locket from Marcus's side, passed down from his grandmother. "I found this in storage at Grandma's old house, but look inside. There's a picture of you with another woman, and is that a baby?" We all leaned in. The photo was faded, but clear. Marcus, younger, holding an infant with a woman who wasn't me or Vanessa. Lila? No, this was older, dated on the back, 1988, 2 years before he met me. Marcus go pale. "Where did you get that?" Sophia said, "Grandma's attic." "Who is she, Dad? Another secret?" He broke then, collapsing into sobs. "Her name was Carla. We were together briefly in college. She got pregnant, but I wasn't ready. I paid for her to move away, supported the child from afar. It's a son, Jacob. He's 34 now, lives in California. I visit sometimes." "A third family?" "Well, a third child at least." The room erupted. Liam yelled, "How many more, Dad? Is our whole life a lie?" Sophia cried, hugging me. I sat there stunned, but not surprised. It fit the pattern. Marcus, the master compartmentalizer, scattering secrets like seeds. As the chaos peaked, the doorbell rang again. I answered it, and there stood Vanessa, Ethan, and Mia looking confused. "Marcus invited us for brunch. Is this a bad time?" "Perfect." I stepped aside. "Not at all. Come join the family reunion." The living room turned into a circus. Liam and Sophia stared at the newcomers, piecing it together. Vanessa's face fell when she saw the tension. "What's going on?" Marcus tried to explain, but it devolved into shouting. Ethan defended his dad, Mia hiding behind her mom, and Sophia snapped at Vanessa. "You knew about us and went along with it?" Vanessa bristled. "I did what was best for my kids. Marcus promised he would fix it." "Fix it," I interjected, my voice rising for the first time. "By committing bigamy, embezzling from his firm to fund your lives? And what about Carla and Jacob? Or Lila, the woman in Syracuse he's been seeing?" Vanessa's eyes widened. "Lila? Who's Lila?" She turned to Marcus, who looked like he wanted to disappear. The revelations poured out. Vanessa admitted she'd suspected other affairs, but stayed for the financial security. Marcus confessed to the embezzlement, siphoning funds to support everyone, risking his job and freedom. Liam stormed out to cool off. Sophia comforted Mia, who was innocent in this, and Ethan glared at everyone. In the midst of it, I slipped away to my office, grabbing the box. Back in the room, I handed it to Marcus. "Remember this? My birthday gift to you. Open it now." He did, trembling. The watch gleamed, but then he found the USB and note. His face drained of color as he read, "Time's up. The truth ticks louder than lies." He plugged the USB into his laptop, foolishly in front of everyone, and the files opened. Evidence of everything. Marriages, finances, affairs. Vanessa gasped. "You documented all this?" I nodded. "For protection. And now, Marcus, you have a choice. Come clean to everyone, including the authorities, or I will." The room fell silent. Marcus begged, "Please, Alara, we can work this out." But I was done. "No, you've had 30 years. Now it's my turn." As the day ended with Vanessa leaving in tears and my kids rallying around me, I felt a shift, empowerment. But there was one more twist, a call from an unknown number. "Alara, this is Jacob. I think we need to talk." The call from Jacob came right after that explosive family gathering. My phone buzzed as I was cleaning up the wreckage in the living room. Shattered glasses from the arguments, tissues from the tears. Marcus had slunk off to the guest room, defeated, while Liam and Sophia crashed in their old bedrooms, processing the madness. Vanessa and her kids had fled hours earlier, and I was alone with my thoughts when the unknown number lit up my screen. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Alara, this is Jacob. Jacob Harlan, Marcus's son." His voice was deep, steady, with a West Coast lilt. No anger, just resignation. "I got your number from some old letters. I think we need to talk about our mutual connection." My heart raced. Here was the missing piece, the third, or was it first, branch of Marcus's tangled family tree. We talked for over an hour that night. Jacob, now 34, and a graphic artist in San Francisco, had grown up knowing Marcus as the distant uncle who sent checks and visited sporadically. His mom, Carla, had passed away a few years back from cancer, but she left him a box of her own. Letters, photos, and financial records showing Marcus's support. He promised to make things right, Jacob said, but he never did. "I found out about you and Vanessa recently, did some digging after Mom died. There's more you should know." "More?" My stomach twisted. Jacob revealed that Marcus had set up a trust for him too, funded by the same shady consulting gigs I'd uncovered. But here's the twist. Jacob had evidence of Marcus's involvement in a bigger scheme. Turns out, Marcus hadn't just embezzled from his firm, he'd been laundering money through fake projects involving shady investors. Jacob had confronted him last year, demanding answers, and Marcus had paid him hush money. "I didn't take it," he said. "I kept records instead. If you're building a case, I can send them." It was gold. We exchanged emails that night, scans of documents that filled in the gaps. Marcus wasn't just a cheater, he was a fraudster, risking everything to juggle his lies. With Jacob's help, my dossier was now airtight. Bigamy charges, embezzlement proof, tax fraud. But I wasn't done. Revenge isn't just about exposure, it's about control. And that box? It was my ace. The next morning, I gathered everyone, Marcus, Liam, Sophia, even Vanessa, whom I texted to come over, promising closure. Jacob joined via video call, his face on my laptop screen adding to the trauma. The living room felt like a courtroom, with me as the judge. "Marcus," I started holding the open box with the watch and USB. "This was my birthday gift to you. Timeless love. Ironic, isn't it? Because time has run out on your deceptions." He looked haggard, pleading. "Alara, please, let's talk privately." "No," I said firmly. "Everyone here deserves the truth." I projected the files from the USB onto the TV. Marriage certificates, bank transfers, emails, Jacob's documents. Vanessa gasped, seeing the full extent of the fraud. You said it was just support money, she whispered to Marcus. This could ruin us all. Jacob spoke up from the screen. Dad, you dragged us into this. Mom spent her life waiting for you to step up. I won't let you bury it anymore. Liam and Sophia flanked me, their support like armor. We're with Mom, Liam said. Whatever she decides. Marcus broke down, confessing everything. The affair starting in college, the bigamous marriage to Vanessa, the payoffs to Carla, the fling with Leela, who it turned out was blackmailing him over embezzled funds she'd help hide. He'd built an empire of lies to feed his ego, thinking he could have it all. I love you, Ilara, he sobbed. You were always the one. Bull, I shot back. Love doesn't build on secrets. You used me as your cover story. Then came the revenge twist I'd planned. I revealed I'd already contacted a lawyer and the authorities. Not to destroy him outright, no. That would hurt the kids too. Instead, I gave him an ultimatum. You turn yourself in for the financial crimes. Plead guilty, serve your time. In exchange, I won't push for bigamy charges that could drag Vanessa and the others into court. But you sign over the house, your savings, everything, to be divided fairly among all the families. And you walk away from us all. Vanessa nodded tearfully. It's fair, for the kids' sake. Even Marcus, cornered, agreed. The box, with its ticking watch, symbolized his deadline, 48 hours to confess, or I'd send the files to the police myself. But wait, there was one final twist, the one that made me smile the widest. While digging through Marcus's old files, with Jacob's tips, I found something else. A forgotten investment account in my name only, set up early in our marriage from my bookstore profits. He'd hidden it to surprise me one day, but it had grown to over $500,000 through smart stocks. It was mine, untouched by his fraud. Poetic justice. I'd be financially fine, while he faced ruin. The fallout was swift. Marcus turned himself in 2 days later. The firm pressed charges for embezzlement. He got 3 years in prison, plus restitution. The bigamy was handled quietly in divorce proceedings. Our marriage annulled. Vanessa's dissolved. I sold the house, splitting proceeds with Vanessa and Jacob for their kids' futures. Liam and Sophia stood by me, even forming tentative bonds with their half-siblings. Ethan and Mia visited my bookstore and we shared stories. No grudges, just healing. Jacob and I met in person months later, bonding over shared scars. As for me, I rebuilt. With that hidden nest egg, I expanded Pages and Petals into a chain. 3 locations now, with a focus on empowerment books. I started a podcast, inspired by this very story, sharing tales of resilience. And romance? I dipped my toe back in, dating a kind widower who knows my whole saga and loves me for my strength. No more routines built on sand. Now it's authenticity all the way. Looking back, that birthday, when Marcus brought his hidden family and I smiled, handing him that box, was the death of my old life and the birth of something fiercer. The box wasn't just a gift. It was my weapon, loaded with truth. If you're watching this and facing your own betrayal, remember, you hold the power. Smile through the storm. Gather your evidence, and when the time is right, let the truth set you free. That's my story, folks. From heartbreak to triumph. If it resonated, hit like, subscribe, and share your own experiences in the comments. Who knows? Maybe your story is next. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.